introduction. My name is Emma. I am 39 years old. For many years now, I have lived without a husband. I also do not have any children. In the eyes of my family, this is a very big problem. They remind me of it all the time. When they look at me, I feel the weight of their disappointment. It is written on their faces and spoken in their words. They say things like, "Emma, you are nearly 40 now. It is too late to find someone. No man will want you anymore." These sentences are like stones thrown at my heart. Each word leaves a mark. They are not just passing comments. They are sharp reminders that cut me again and again. The pain sits quietly inside me, always present, even when I try to ignore it. I live in a small town. Everyone knows everyone here. Privacy does not exist. My family's shame about me feels public. It is as if the whole town knows I am unmarried and childless. At gatherings, I can feel the whispers. People do not need to say much. Their eyes say enough. Their silence says even more. My cousins are all married. My aunts and uncles are proud of their families. They see their children running around. They talk about grandchildren with pride. Then, they turn their gaze toward me. Their expressions change. In their minds, a woman's life is complete only with a husband and children. To them, I am incomplete. They think my life is empty. They do not see that I also have dreams. They do not see that I want to create happiness in my own way. At every family gathering, the questions come like arrows. When will you get married, Emma? Why are you still alone? These questions are never soft. They are filled with judgment. They make me feel smaller and smaller. Sometimes I want to disappear. Sometimes I wish I could escape their eyes, their voices, their sighs, but I cannot. This is my family. This is my home. I am tied to them, no matter how much it hurts. They often tell stories of women my age who are married, women with families, women who followed the path that I did not. These stories are meant to remind me of what I lack. They are meant to show me what I failed to do. Each story adds to the pressure on my shoulders. Each story deepens the ache in my heart. Yet, in the middle of this pain, I still hold on to hope. It is a quiet, steady hope. A light inside me that refuses to go out. I dream of love. I dream of finding someone who will look at me, Emma. Not just my age, not just my status. Someone who will see me for who I really am. Someone who will choose me, not because of society, but because of love. This hope gives me strength. It pushes me to wake up every morning. It tells me that happiness is still possible. My family says I am too late. They say love has passed me by. But my heart tells me a different story. It says love can come at any age. It says my story is not finished. It says I can still write the chapters of my own life. I want to prove that they are wrong. I want to build a life that is mine. A life filled with love, peace, and joy. I want people to remember me not for their shame, but for my courage. This hope is my hidden power. It keeps me moving forward, even when the world around me wants to drag me backward. This is my strength. This is my beginning. One evening, I stood in front of my mirror, staring at myself longer than usual. The reflection felt familiar, yet strange. I saw the same face I had known for 40 years, but my eyes carried a heaviness I could not ignore. My cousin had invited me to a family celebration, and after many excuses, I had finally agreed to go. Yet my heart was restless. Family gatherings were always difficult for me. They were filled with laughter, food, and stories of happy marriages and children. For me, they were reminders of what I did not have. I knew the glances I would receive. I knew the whispers that would float across the room when I walked in. My single life was always an open secret, something unspoken yet painfully clear. That night, when I entered my cousin's house, I felt the familiar wave of noise and warmth. The rooms were crowded, filled with colorful clothes, music, and the smell of food cooking. Laughter rolled through the air like a cheerful song. But for me, it felt distant. I smiled politely at relatives, yet my heart was not with them. I moved through the house quietly, careful not to draw attention. Soon, the whispers began. I heard them the way one hears small, sharp stones hitting a window. "Look, it's her," someone said softly. "Still alone," another voice answered. Their words carried no kindness. I tried to pretend I had not heard, but each sentence pressed down on me like a weight I could not carry. I found a small corner near a window and stood there, away from the circle of glowing faces. The conversations around me were bright and busy, stories of weddings, children, new houses, and family holidays. Each story reminded me of my own silence. I had no such tales to share. I felt like a shadow in a room full of light. For a while, I kept my eyes low, but then I noticed someone across the room. A man. He stood differently from the others. While everyone laughed loudly, his presence was calm, almost quiet. He had dark hair, a strong build, and eyes that seemed thoughtful rather than eager. He was not rushing to be the center of attention. Instead, he simply observed the people around him. For a brief moment, his eyes met mine. There was no judgment in his gaze. It was steady, gentle, and kind. That simple look made me feel less invisible, less alone. It was a small comfort, yet powerful. I found myself wondering who he was. Later, as I lingered near the food table, I overheard a conversation about him. "That's Marco," someone said. "He's new in town. He's divorced." The word stayed with me, divorced. It meant he too had known loss and disappointment. He too had walked through pain. He was not untouched by life's storms. Marco was older than me, I learned. He was 48, I was 40. Somehow that made him feel closer, more real. He was not like the younger men who spoke with careless confidence. He carried a weight, yet it did not harden him. It seemed to make him softer, more human. I kept watching him through the night. He spoke little, but when he did, his voice was calm, almost soothing. He did not force himself into the laughter. He seemed comfortable being different. That quiet strength was unlike anything I had seen before. No one had ever looked at me the way he did, without pity, without judgment, simply with recognition. In that crowded room where I felt invisible, Marco's presence gave me a flicker of hope. It was not loud or overwhelming, but gentle and steady. That night, when I left the gathering, I carried that look with me. It stayed in my mind long after the party ended. I had no answers, no plans. But for the first time in a long while, I felt something shift inside me. It was the beginning of a story I did not yet understand. After that evening, Marco's presence lingered in my thoughts. The way he had stood in that crowded room, calm yet steady, was not easy to forget. I had seen many faces over the years, but his was different. It carried both strength and sadness. I wanted to know more, yet I hesitated. Curiosity felt dangerous. In the weeks that followed, I began to hear small pieces of his story. In a small town, words travel quickly, carried by whispers and casual conversations. People loved to talk, and Marco had become a favorite subject. The things they said were heavy, colored with judgment. I learned that he was divorced because his wife had been unfaithful. She had left him for another man, a story that had once shaken the town like a storm. People still remembered it clearly. Even after years had passed, his past was not forgotten. But the words people used to describe him were not kind. Some said he had become cold, a man with no heart left to give. Others whispered that he was dangerous, someone women should avoid. They painted him as a man full of anger, bitterness, and brokenness. I listened to these stories, but something inside me refused to accept them. The man I had seen with my own eyes was not the man they described. His calm presence, his quiet gaze, it was not cruel or sharp. It was gentle. I decided I would not let rumors decide for me. I wanted to see who he really was. The first time we spoke, it was unexpected. I had gone to a small park one afternoon, a place I often visited when I needed silence. The trees there were tall and old, their branches heavy with shade. To my surprise, Marco was there too, sitting on a bench, reading quietly. For a moment, I considered walking away, but then he looked up and smiled. Just a small smile, and it was enough to keep me there. We began talking. At first, the words were simple about the weather, the quiet of the park, the books we liked. But soon, our voices grew softer, and the distance between us began to shrink. He listened to me with such attention that it startled me. No one had ever listened to me like that before. He did not interrupt. He did not rush to fill the silence. He simply allowed me to speak, and when he responded, his words were thoughtful, never careless. I felt safe with him in a way I had not felt in years. The more we spoke, the more I saw the truth. He was not cold at all. He was not dangerous. He was gentle, deeply gentle. He carried pain, yes, but it had not turned him cruel. Instead, it seemed to make him more compassionate. He understood loneliness. He understood what it meant to be broken and still keep moving forward. One evening, as we walked together, he looked at me and said softly, "You are different." His words caught me by surprise. My family had always spoken of my flaws, the things I lacked. But he saw something else. He told me I had a brave heart. No one had ever said that to me. No one had ever looked past my silence and seen strength. His words were like sunlight breaking through a heavy sky. For the first time in years, I felt truly seen. As our connection grew, we began to meet in quiet places, hidden from the eyes of family and neighbors. We shared coffee in small shops far from my house. We walked through streets where no one knew our names. At night, we whispered to each other over the phone, sharing our thoughts when the world was asleep. Those moments were secret, yet precious. In them, I felt alive in a way I had not felt for so long. Laughter returned to me. Hope returned. His presence was like a spark that lit something deep inside my heart. Marco spoke honestly about his past, about the betrayal he had endured, about the pain of losing what he thought would last forever. But he also spoke of hope, of small dreams for the future. He was not hiding behind walls. He was real, open, and unafraid of showing his wounds. With him, I felt safe enough to reveal my own. I told him about my fears, the fear of being alone forever, the shame my family's words had carved into me. I told him about the weight I carried, the secret wish I had buried for years, the wish of building a family, of being loved without judgment. He listened to everything. He never laughed at my fears or called them foolish. He simply held them gently, as if they were fragile treasures. And when I finished, he said softly, "You deserve love. You deserve happiness. Your dreams are not foolish. They are beautiful." His words were like a soft blanket over my aching heart. In his presence, I was no longer the quiet, invisible woman I had always been. With him, I was someone brave, someone worthy. And in those quiet, hidden hours, our bond grew stronger. It did not take long before the secret of Marco and me began to slip into the open. In a small town, silence never lasts. Eyes are always watching, and whispers move faster than the wind. One evening, I came home to find my family already waiting. Their faces told me they knew. The air in the room was sharp, heavy with disappointment. My brother was the first to speak. His voice rose like a storm. "You cannot see him," he said firmly. "He is not good for you. His past is full of shame. He will bring ruin to our family's name." His words struck me like stones. He stood tall, filled with certainty, as if he had the right to decide my life. Then my mother spoke, her eyes wet with tears. She looked at me with sorrow but also with judgment. "You are 40, she whispered. "Love is not for you anymore. It is too late. Stop this foolish dream. Think of us. Think of our name. Think of how people will talk." Her words cut deeply. Not because they were true, but because I had heard them all my life. Over and over, my family had told me I was too old, too late, too much of a shame. For a moment, the weight of their words almost broke me again. I felt myself shrinking, the old feeling of being small and invisible returning. But this time, something inside me was different. I was no longer the silent woman who always bowed her head. I had felt love now. I had seen myself through Marco's gentle eyes. I looked at my brother. I looked at my mother. And though my voice trembled, it did not break. "This is my life," I said. "This is my happiness. I will not give him up." The room fell silent. My words shocked even me. For the first time, I had stood against them. For the first time, I chose myself. But the storm did not end there. Soon, the town joined in. Gossip spread like fire, feeding on pieces of truth and filling in the rest with lies. People whispered in the market, at church, on street corners. Their words followed me everywhere. Some said I wanted Marco only for his money, that I was desperate because of my age, that I was trying to trap him. Others pointed to his past. If his first wife left him, he must be unworthy, they said. He will leave her too. She is blind if she cannot see it. Every word was heavy. Every whisper felt like a shadow following me. At times, I thought of hiding, of locking myself away. The shame pressed on me, thick and suffocating. But then I remembered Marco's voice, calm and steady, telling me I was brave. One night, when the rumors felt too heavy, I told him everything. My voice shook as I spoke of the cruel things people were saying. I told him about the whispers, the pointing, the lies. He listened without interruption. When I finished, his hand reached for mine. His touch was warm, grounding. "Let them talk," he said softly. "Their words are not truth. They do not know us. What matters is what we know. I see you, and I will never leave you. Their words are only air." His eyes held mine, steady and kind. In that moment, the noise of the town faded. His love was louder than their judgment. His loyalty was stronger than their cruelty. With him, I could breathe again. It was not easy. Every day brought new whispers. But now, I was not alone. Marco's presence gave me courage. I learned to walk with my head higher, even when eyes followed me. I learned to smile, even when the whispers grew cruel. And slowly, something inside me began to shift. For years, I had believed the story my family and town had written for me, that I was too old, too late, too empty. But now, I was writing a new story. I was not just the woman they pitied. I was not just the shame they whispered about. I was a woman who had found love, who had found courage, who had chosen her own path. The fight with my family was painful. The judgment of the town was cruel. But deep inside, a new strength was growing. For the first time, I was learning that my happiness did not need permission. For the first time, I was learning to be free. The whispers did not stop. If anything, they grew louder. Each trip to the market, each walk down the street carried new eyes, new voices. I could feel them on me, as if my every step was being measured and judged. Yet even in the noise, Marco's words stayed with me. Their voices are only air. And then, one quiet evening, everything changed. We were walking near the old river, a place where the water always seemed to carry secrets away. The sun was low, painting the sky in shades of orange and soft pink. Marco stopped walking. He turned to me, his eyes steady and full of kindness. He took my hand gently into his. His voice was soft, but his words carried the weight of my entire life. "Will you marry me?" he asked. For a moment, the world stopped. My heart raced. Joy, fear, and disbelief all tangled together inside me. I thought of my family's faces, the anger in their eyes, the shame they wrapped around me. I thought of the town's whispers, sharp and endless. I thought of every moment I had felt too small, too invisible. And yet, standing there with Marco, all of that seemed distant. His hand was warm in mine, his eyes full of hope. For the first time, I saw a future that belonged to me, not to my family, not to the town, not to the shame they had given me, but to me. When I said yes, my voice was quiet but certain. It was the biggest choice of my life. The silence after my answer was deep. The river moved softly. The evening birds sang. The world seemed to breathe with me. I felt both terrified and free. Terrified of what my family would say. Free because I had chosen love. When I told my family, their anger was immediate. My brother shouted so loudly the walls shook. "If you marry him, you are no longer our sister," he declared. His words struck me like a door slamming shut. My mother wept, her voice shaking as she said, "You are bringing great shame upon us. This is not what a woman your age should do." Even my friends, the ones who had stood with me before, told me I was being foolish. They told me to think of the future, to think of my family's name. But for once, I did not bend. Their voices were heavy, but my choice was stronger. I told them this was my life, my happiness. I told them I would not turn away from love. Not this time, not ever again. The town, of course, talked more than ever. Some said I was desperate, clinging to the first man who would have me. Others said Marco was broken, a man whose past would only bring me misery. But their words no longer cut as deep. Marco's presence was stronger than their noise. Together, we began to dream of a new life. It would not be easy. We knew we would face storms, anger, and gossip. But we also knew that love was worth it. For so many years, I had lived in silence, carrying shame that was never mine to hold. Now, I was stepping into a life of my own making. The night before our wedding, I sat quietly by my window. The town outside was dark, but the stars were bright. I thought of the girl I had been the one who hid in corners, who shrank under her family's words, who believed she was too late for love. And then I thought of the woman I was becoming, the one who had found her voice, who had chosen her own story, who had dared to believe in hope at 40. Marco saw me as brave. And slowly, I had begun to see myself that way too. Our marriage was not just about love. It was about freedom. It was about refusing to let others define my worth. It was about finally claiming my life as my own. The world still talked. My family still frowned. But when I looked into Marco's eyes, none of it mattered. I had chosen love. I had chosen myself. And that choice was the most powerful gift I had ever given. This was not the end of my story. It was the beginning. A beginning filled with hope, with courage, and with the promise that love does not belong to an age, or to a family, or to a town. Love belongs to those who choose it. And I had chosen it at last. The wedding morning came with a soft golden light. I woke with a mix of nerves and joy, knowing this was the day I had dreamed of for so many years. My closest friends gathered around me, helping me prepare. Their laughter, their smiles, their gentle touches reminded me that love is not only found in romance, but also in friendship and kindness. We chose a small, quiet place for the ceremony. It was not grand, not filled with glitter or noise. It was simple, beautiful, and peaceful, just what my heart needed. As I stood there, dressed for the moment, I felt the weight of my past lift little by little. Some of my family chose to come. Their faces showed quiet support. Their presence meant more than words could say. Others stayed away. My brother, my mother, they could not accept my choice. Their absence left a small ache in my heart, but it did not break me. I had learned to carry both sorrow and hope together. I knew I had chosen the right path, even if it was not theirs. Outside, the whispers still moved through the town. People spoke of my age, of Marco's past, of whether this love could last. Their words floated like a breeze, but the breeze no longer carried power. I had found strength inside me. Their voices were only noise. My heart was steady. When I walked toward Marco, every small fear melted away. His eyes met mine, calm and full of love. I felt certainty. I felt peace. It was as though the world had paused to watch us, yet in that moment, there was only him and me. Our vows were simple, spoken softly, but they carried the weight of truth. We promised to stand by each other, to share whatever life would bring. When he slipped the ring onto my finger, I felt something settle deep in my soul. It was as if all the years of waiting had led to this single, perfect moment. Then came the kiss. Gentle, quiet, yet full of meaning. The world disappeared. There was no gossip, no judgment, no shame. There was only love. At 40 years old, I had once believed my story was over, that love was not meant for me. For years, I thought I would remain unseen, unloved, alone. But life had surprised me. Love had come when I least expected it. And in that love, I found not only a partner but also myself. Marco was 48. Neither of us was young, but our story was just beginning. This was a new chapter, a new life. Together, we were building something that was ours. As I stood there as his wife, I felt a happiness that was whole, deep, and real. Not a fleeting joy, but a lasting one. The shame I had carried was gone. The whispers no longer mattered. I was free. I was loved. And for the first time, I was truly, completely happy.